All right, next on the list for public comment? Yes, sir?
May I ask Mr. Pritchard a question?
Yes, John?
Do you have any one certain day that your water consumption is, what you would say is more or less during your work week?
During my work week?
Yes. Is there like a certain day that you run any certain product that demands more water? Is it pretty much what you'd say a flat level line?
Constant,
Okay,
fairly constant.
that's all I needed to know, thank you.
Jake? All right,
Just wanted to give a morning update on where we stood with the village's water project. The phase one portion of it, which is funded by Community Development Block Grant. Since the last meeting, we had a conference call as we continued to work on the federal level environmental review, which is the NEPA review. We had a conference call with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and the funding agency, which is Office of Homes and Community Renewal in New York State. And we're trying to work out, Fish and Wildlife has to have a formal consultation directed by a federal agency. And so we're trying to get the funding agency to give them the formal go-ahead. They had already done all of their review pertaining to this issue with the northern long-haired bat status and tree clearing at Kelly Summit Springs. During that conference call, basically a question came up and the funding agency asked to have a separate conference call with us and made the mayor aware of this. They basically offered that they, at this point, due to the constraints that were coming up with this bat consultation with Fish and Wildlife, that they were interested in having the village apply for a time extension on the grant. We were originally informed that we had until December of this year to expend the funds, and that a time extension was not going to be an option. But they discussed that with our office in Municipal Solutions, which is the town's fiscal advisor, or the village's fiscal advisor on this project, and requested that the village submit a letter of request for a time extension. Basically lay out what milestones we've achieved so far working on the CDBG grant, lay out a proposed schedule of what we would need for time, and then reasons why we need this extension. Primarily focusing on the fact that this environmental review has taken longer because of this issue that's come up with the northern long-eared bat and the tree removal constraints, which are that it has to go through a formal consultation in a I don't believe that the formal word is a permit, but we have to get a biological opinion from Fish and Wildlife that it's a minimal impact if we stay under an acre tree clearing, but that process takes a while. Or we have to do the tree clearing in the winter months, which are from October to March. And if we wait until October of this year, there's no way to complete the project before December. So to that end, we've worked with Municipal Solutions and we prepared the documents that CDBG OCR was asking for. At this point, the letter went over to Charlie Fillion, who's our project representative at Office of Community Renewal, for him to give an informal review of the letter. But basically, we asked him directly if this extension was a realistic thing that he was offering, because we need to keep working on the environmental permits as quickly as possible if it wasn't. And he essentially, with as much surety as he can, said, if you give me these documents that we've asked for, the extension will be granted. So he's reviewing that right now. I expect to hear back from him hopefully tomorrow, but in the next several days.
I actually met him at the conference. He was pretty.
You met Charlie?
Yeah, he was actually very nice about everything.
Yeah, he's a great liaison between his agency and the communities, and this is what he does for when he works with small communities like this, and projects just like this. So basically, at this point, our recommendation is your engineering consultant is certainly, we think it's a great idea to pursue this time extension. It'll allow the project to be phased in a way that makes sense at this point, which means we can wrap up the environmental review with Fish and Wildlife saying, as long as you clear the trees this winter instead of this summer, we're fine with it. There's no issues. The bats have hibernated elsewhere. And then we can go ahead and schedule it, bid it out so the tree clearing happens over the winter months. And then once once it dries up in the spring next year, start to work at the actual spring site. We would also propose that with that schedule, we would pursue metering work as quickly as possible, so like to start this late summer, early fall on metering work. So our recommendation is that the village go ahead and submit this letter formally, and to that end, probably the best way is to have the board entertain a resolution, pass a resolution directing us to pursue this time extension and authorizing the mayor to execute the letter, and then we go ahead and submit that, hopefully hear back from them fairly quickly. And that end result is that the funding agency wants us to tell them when can we reasonably conclude the project. At this point, with the constraints we've had, we discussed the type of construction through which and if we have to wait until we get it, through the wet spring to start on the springs, we're saying it could be as late as June before we could realistically start. Depends on the weather next year. But we would wrap that up by the end of the construction season, certainly, which is October typically, and then paperwork for the project would wrap up in the next month or two after that. So it ends up really giving about a year extension. But are there any questions at this point?
So what happens if we get turned down for this extension and we've wasted however long?
Well, I asked him that question point blank on the conference call we had about this, and he basically said that you're not gonna get turned down. And Fish and Wildlife is in the loop on all of this, they understand exactly where we stand, so they're keeping the file open. And we haven't stopped working on the other aspects of the project. At the end of May, the survey was completed, topographical survey was completed at the Kelly Summit Springs site. That allows us to move forward with design there, but also allows us to identify the true clearing limits precisely for Fish and Wildlife. So we're still moving forward with that stuff, but at this point, it's basically a formality of getting it to them, but the language in the letter has to be correct because, to put it simply, Charlie at Homes and Community Renewal has to report to EPA at the federal level and to HUD at the federal level about why he gave this project an extension. So he needs it to properly explain why we were delayed. I believe that basically when he listened in on the conference call with Fish and Wildlife and heard us saying we're gonna have to get permitted permission to take trees in the summer, which is what they don't really want to happen because we can't wait till winter, and we did. The bat was formally listed, the rules were finalized in I believe it was late April or early May of this year, and so the timing of everything has been kind of torturous.
Yeah.
But this is actually I think a great opportunity that they've extended to the village that allows the project to be completed effectively at this point.
So can I get a resolution then to pursue the time extension for the water project and authorizing myself to sign the letter for this request?
I'll make it.
Well, I'll second it.
All in, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous, carried and approved.
And then, so that will be going forward. We'll contact you very shortly here.
Tomorrow?
Yeah, get that letter in. And then we'll need to work with the village at this point. The schedule we've put together has us concluding environmental review in the next month. And once we wrap that up, we'd like to be able to have made final decisions on metering design work so that we can submit to the funding agency and to the health department for approval on those, so we move towards bidding this work this year.
Okay.
When we wrap up our environmental review, there's still a process that takes about a month when that paperwork is put out for public comment. At the end of that, if everything concludes right on schedule, they'll they'll respond to the village's formal request for release of funds, which basically then the funding agency will say, all your paperwork's in place, we're ready to release funds on this project. And at that point, we can bid jobs and start working and expending the funds.
All right.
Are there any questions? Any further questions?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
All Friends, if you wanna comment? No? Alright, and, last one on public comment is, Mr. Lefebvre. We asked you to come here to talk with you in regards to a possible easement, along the Pat McGee Trail to utilize for water, potentially, if we ever get into a disaster like we did back in the 90s. And then also wanted to talk to you about the art grant / old elementary school building as well.
It's kind of a shell game, we brought you in here for this thing, but really, we want to.
So first off, in regards to the easement for that parcel of land, from what we've discussed, is that you would, or that your organization would be willing to extend an easement for the village to go across from Kelly Summit to essentially the railroad tracks, correct? Along the Pat McGee Trail?
Pat McGee Trail. The Pat McGee Trail we own just to this side of Sutter Sticks all the way to Salamanca. The reason I did the Pat McGee Trail, everybody think was the warm and fuzzy because I wanted to do a rails trail. And the reason I did that was that when we were in the water crisis in the 90s, we ran a pipeline from Little Valley to Cattaraugus. It was very expensive, but it served the needs for several years. I vowed that if it ever came available, strategically, I would take control of it. And that's what I did. I made it into a rails and trails, but my idea has always been strategically, we may run out of water. Even after all the work that you're doing, it would take one small earthquake and our water source would be gone. And the thing, the situation in Little Valley is they have a huge aquifer down there, way superior to ours. So our organization is willing to give an easement from the north end of our property to Little Valley, so that even though you might just stop at Kelly Summit at this stage to get water for the village, if in the event that anything ever changed, you could go on to Little Valley to get water. So yes, we are willing. But I'm going to take you out tomorrow, either on a ranger ride or if it rains, we'll go by car down the trail. What we want to do is, I had originally talked to Jason about this being that bury the line and such, that it wouldn't be that intrusive. We have to look at what works best and makes the most common sense. As I mentioned to you today, that you have houses on 353 that get water, they come off the line on 353. If you move and use our trail, that means you have to run pipes to the back of their houses. And you have to figure out if that's going to be cost effective for you or not. And if that can be covered underneath a grant or if it's going to be money that the village has to spend. So there's several factors that we have to bring into play. But we are open and receptive because that's what the original intent was from the very beginning. Enough said?
I feel so.
Sometimes I'm not as stupid as I was.
Now, how, explain this to me, so your organization owns the Pat McGee Trail?
Yeah, we own it fee simple, just like you own the land underneath your house, fee simple. That trail is anywhere from 45 feet wide to 600 feet wide. And there's a fill in which there's a culvert that comes underneath the fill that brings the water lines, I believe, over to the pumps down here. And that was laid up in 1851, and we own that. That's the widest part of the trail, that's 600 feet deep, because they had to fill that 100 feet with soil and stuff. So, but typically the trail is 99 feet wide.
I mean, if we ever need water.
It's only a 7% grade, so it's an easy grade. It would give you an access road in there, 24/7, 365. And it's maintained all year round, so we keep it mowed in the summer, and wintertime it's groomed by the snowmobiles.
Any damage incurred during?
That would have to be, we don't have to.
Right, it's our
Yeah.
liability. Just so you know, a letter from Mr. Lefevre, was submitted with the DWSRF application that's on file, that he was willing to, his organization was willing to grant that easement when he's talking further now to Little Valley, just in case, which is good. The letter is part of the application. It was submitted to the state for the big project, not phase one project, the big project, where the intent was to have that access from across 353, and actually the town, I'm sorry, the village now owns that property that surrounds the rails to trails in that spot. But the rails to trails runs through it, so.
Now, we discussed as far as a price, I think what we discussed was around, what, 350?
The going rate is, we do license agreements, and we've got some people, like Atlantic Broadband that crosses our trail and such, and it's $325 a year is what we charge them on the license agreement. Permanent easement, we can talk on that, and we're not going to hurt you, because we're here to protect the community. And so, I mean, it could be a couple of years before you activate, and, you know, you may never have to activate the whole value. On the other hand, you may find that the following year. So it's a matter of sitting down and just working out what it's doing. I'm not interested in much in the money of it as the serving of the community.
Mr. France, is there anything that you, in regards to the easement, any questions that you have for Mr. Lefevre?
In order to write the easement, we'll need a legal description of your property, or if you want to propose the language of the easement. But the legal description of your property is what the surveyor typically uses to say where your boundaries are, and it can be found in the deed for your property as well.
You have quite a document here.
Yeah, it's a very, I understand it to be a very large
When we
trail,
did-
so.
When we did the rails to trails, when we got a federal grant for $1.5 million,
Mhm.
so we had to meet federal requirements. And one of the requirements, at the time I thought it was a little crazy, but it turned out to pay off well. They spent $28,000 to survey that whole thing.
Yeah.
So the survey is up to date as of 2004. And the Cattaraugus abstract, I believe, did all
The title work on it?
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
and I think that Ryan West personally did it, so it's in very good shape all the way around.
In order to actually write the easement itself, the words that describe the property would be necessary though. So those will be whatever the deed that you have for the property that it is, or it could be the legal description at the beginning of the title abstract for it. I'd be happy to meet with you in order to get what that language is so that I can put it in the easement though.
We did a permanent easement with National Grid a few years ago, and you base it by mile markers and such. As you go down the trail, just for what it's worth, every mile, there's a concrete marker, and it says JC, like 426.
That's the surveyor's concrete markers?
And that's actually 426 miles from Jersey City. And anyway, that's one of the markers that you use for this and such. But describing it, we can pretty well wrap that up, I think, very tightly. And on my board is Cameron Brooks. He's my attorney for the LVC. He doesn't like to do real property, but he's good to work with.
I'd be very happy to work with him. If you want me to contact him and either he or I works to write up the language for the proposed easement, however that works out, I'm happy to do it.
Okay. Yeah, I'll talk to him to see where he's at, and then I'll get back to you if that's okay.
Do you have contact information for me?
Yeah, his office number is 938-9133.
I meant, if you wanted to call me, do you know how to get in touch with me?
No, but I will shortly.
Okay.
You're gonna give me one of those world famous cards, right?
Yeah.
All right, and then, so that's something that we'll discuss more in regards to
Thank
the, in regards to the easement, we'll talk, see the language and all that, and then also discuss the price down the road. Second part we wanted to talk with you was in regards to the old elementary school building. Know that a few years past you made an effort to try and make that something.
We tried to make it into a college. We spent 7 years at it.
Our question for you, and it doesn't hurt to ask a question, is
You're hedging here.
I am. And would you be willing to assist the village and to start doing something to either see about turning our old school into either some type of homes or some type of residency for such income for individuals, or maybe possibly turn into some type of building? Would you be able to help us get started on that and see this actually become something and not a continuous eyesore and hazard?
I would be willing to put some time into it. Realize I put 7 years into it. And in the end, we tried to bring in Alfred University to do a trade school here for the lost arts, like masonry, carpentry, timber peg and such. We were going to model after a school down in Ohio that had done it. They came up, they went through this with us. We had a big event with them and that. And they said it was doable. The problem is that you get 7 years down the road to find out that there is no such thing as a new college in New York State anymore. And so then we tried to work with Alfred to do it. In the end, we ended up giving $25,000 to Alfred to start their program over in Alfred, but it was never going to happen here. One of the things that I see for this is that we also brought in a group out of Rochester. My wife was the grants administrator for New York State for this area. And she did a project at the Belmont Hotel, which was about a $3.5 million project, and they completely redid the hotel, which the hotel at that time makes this one look like a palace. They started the project and it caved in on them, okay, but they completely rebuilt the place. And they used a group out of Rochester. They had done $200 million worth of those types of projects where they converted it into housing and such. And it is low income but not slum. Lord type situation, and they did a beautiful job on it. They came in, they looked at this, and they said that we needed $6,500 for a feasibility study, and there was another $30,000 behind that. But you wouldn't spend the $30,000 unless the feasibility study said it was doable. Behind that was going to be $3 to $7 million to convert this. We went to the legislators for the $6,500 and were turned down on that, and that basically killed the project. That's one avenue that we could go. The other avenue, and I don't know if this is feasible or not, but with all the emphasis on medical industry right now, I wonder if it would be feasible to completely redo that building and make it a lab. And when I say that is that the housing end just brings housing for local people. But if you bring it into a lab, now you've got technical people and educational people getting paid well. That would bring more money into the community, and they would probably live in the community if that facility was here. And you got 38,000 feet over there. You got about $300,000 to $500,000 worth of asbestos that needs to be removed, and that's going to be an issue, and we're going to inherit it if we don't do something with it anyway. So I'm not sure that we have all the answers yet, if we looked at it for all the possibilities in that. I mean, it could be a beautiful place, and it could be a turning point for the community if we do this right. And I would like to believe we can do a lab rather than just turning it into housing, the housing being a drop back position. So,
Actually be able to have some jobs and some
Yeah.
decent jobs, actually.
yeah, well, we need jobs here, that's our whole problem.
Absolutely.
If you look at it, all we are is a dying community that, it used to be a company-run town, and Sutter Brothers owned it. Everybody had a job, if not a second job, to go to.
Right?
And when we moved back here, my wife is from Cattaraugus, but when we moved back here in the 70s, we had 40 engineers living here. Those engineers, their wives did not work. They were the civic activity. And that's all gone away, and what we've got now is everybody's working 2 jobs, looking for a replacement for one of them, and so that they can make more money, and we've lost the civic activities Definitely some opinions.
Well, thank you very much.
Okay, I can leave now?
Yes.
No cookies?
No cookies. Let's see here. Also want to acknowledge that both the Cattaraugus County legislatures, Paula Stockman and Dick Clancer were present. Well, Paula
I
still,
think he still is present.
he's talking
He
with us.
better be coming.
And I believe that concludes our public comment. All right, reports on committees. Start off with youth council.
Hello.
Hello.
I came in today just to let you know that I had turned in a busing request to the school, which is normally what I do, to request the bus and the driver. And I also turned in the insurance information for the liability for the bus driver that the youth council also is responsible for. At this point, that is as far as I've gone, now that I'm working with Bo and Wirt, so I've kind of stopped at that point. I would like to get a packet out to the school as soon as possible for the kids, so they know what the days are, what the hours are. We have some changes that we've been talking about. They haven't been finalized, but we've been talking about what we can do to keep the program going this year.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of where I'm at. We're kind of at a crossroads on financially keeping the program going. So we need to make some decisions on if we're going to have the kids from Estado pay a fee for attending, since Estado didn't contribute this year, or what we can do, because it's over $2,000 from that town that we no longer have, which will cut lifeguards and some of the other things that we have there.
How much did you say we have for lifeguard again?
About $2,000-ish. Normally I have 4 lifeguards.
Put it in my office.
3 doing, like, we kind of rotate through and they do the lessons, and then we have activities like volleyball and basketball. We have, some outside activities that we're doing, so they're not swimming for a full 3 hours, because we have 5-year-olds there.
Mm-hmm.
But we've cut in all the areas, and I'm thinking that we're only gonna be able to have 2 lifeguards, and then I'm down there myself as well. So we have to look at that as well. But the big concern is how we're going to address Estado and the children that normally attend from that.
Did you look into that?
Did Gray Insurance ever respond back to?
I haven't received a response to that yet, no. I sent an email request to one of the people at Gray Insurance to see if they would recommend a particular form, whether or not those kids would be covered under our insurance if they got hurt at the pool, or if one of the lifeguards' acts caused them to get hurt, or if there's something wrong with the pool and the kid got hurt, would that be covered under our policy or not? And if it's not covered under the policy, not necessarily to exclude them, but then if the insurance company had a form of liability waiver that they would recommend. And I suggested one to them. I'm just waiting to see what they recommend back. At a bare minimum, I think if the village wants to allow them to attend and figures out what the financial cost of that should be for the lifeguarding, that a waiver of liability would be my recommendation, that the parents waive any liability to the village, that they are not going to sue the village if their kid gets drowns in the pool or something like that, which, I don't want to see it happen, but if it does, who's
Well, within the
responsible?
packet that I
has to be
sent
set out
home,
in
there
advance.
There already is that, right?
There's a preset,
Yeah.
it was something that was
Right.
preset
Well,
from
we-
many years ago that
Yeah.
is notarized, that we've always used.
All right, I didn't see a form, that wasn't sent to me when the request was.
Okay,
I'll see whether or not that matches with what I thought we should have anyway.
okay, I can get another one if you need it.
I was basically thinking, the town's out of the loop, but, if I don't see what the big.
Yeah, if you want to let them back in, as long as they waive liability just the same as anybody else would, and if you figure out the cost aspect, but that's not,
It's a little pricey, but we were looking at maybe $100 a kid, which sounds like a lot, but if you got 20 kids, then give you $2,000. And if you do the math,
Because how many times do they go?
we were talking about that, cutting it to
Normally-
Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday.
Yes, normally the way the programs run for my many years is 2 days a week, 9 to noon.
Okay.
But because of some of the cuts, we were thinking running it only 3 days a week, but all the kids would be able to come together, so they'd actually be gaining a day, but we'd be taking a day of transportation away, so that would lower some of the fuel costs that we pay,
Okay,
as well as the, what we pay the bus driver. So it would be beneficial to the kids, but save us a little bit of money. So they're just ideas that we were throwing around to see if that would work, but currently we had spoken of just doing it Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, cutting off Thursday.
And if we
That's
did,
gonna happen anyway.
and if we did have a fee for these kids, their parents or legal guardians would be responsible to bring them.
Yep.
And come pick them up.
At $100 a kid for the 6 weeks at 3 times, so it's 18 days, you're basically paying $5.56 a kid per day for the summer.
I'd say that's very reasonable.
And I'm.
Did you guys look at anything else as far as how to work with the budget itself for what you guys have? As far as cutting any other costs?
We had cut supplies, what I make, what the bus driver makes, we had to cut almost $3,000 from our overall budget. So every area was cut except the fee that Wildwood Pool charges us. They were not willing to lower their fee, so
They were?
so they are continuing to, we are paying them $2,500 to use the pool for the 6 weeks. But everything else had been cut.
Did you just reach out to them, or did,
Someone went down and spoke with them, and they said that they would like to keep their fee the same.
wonder if they'd be,
Or
if any of us reached out to them and said, to keep the program going and everything, to help out a little bit, could you knock off a couple $100 just to help so that we can keep this program truly going? Maybe they will, maybe they won't wanna hurt to ask though, you never know. They might just say, yeah. Rose, could you, put that on my to-do list to, contact? Who is it that they contacted at Wildwood, do you know, or did they just talk to,
is it Dale Herman?
I believe it's Dale, ain't it?
You would speak with Dale. He's our president and head of the board of directors.
Is he? Okay.
So that's where I'm at. We need to just kind of make our decisions quickly because the first half day for the elementary kids is the 19th.
Okay.
And I'd like to get the packets out to them quickly. Little Valley, the kids got their packet on Thursday from the Little Valley swim program. So normally mine goes out after theirs.
Okay.
So if we could get it out quickly, that would be helpful.
And what's the latest that you'd be comfortable getting it out? to
Oh,
them?
we have till about the 24th, but once we start hitting the half days, the kids are just overwhelmed with what they're bringing home. And I put copies of the packets, with Rose, I put them at the bank, they're in the elementary office, the high school office. I mean, I leave packets throughout the community, but the easiest way obviously is when the kids are taking it home to their parents with their backpacks. Once we start hitting the half days at the end, the kids just have supplies and so much. I like to try and get it before they're getting so many papers.
Absolutely.
So,
I'll see if I can't reach out to, Mr. Rogan tomorrow then.
okay.
Just see, so I can let you guys know whether it's we were able to, or, nope, this is it. And so you guys can figure whatever, so you can send everything and,
Okay.
do you guys have a specific date that you're meeting with Stacy, or you guys just correlate, talking via email?
We've been going with email.
Okay. Anything else?
Absolutely fine, thank you. Nope, that's all I needed.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Thank
Seems like you guys are doing a good job of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job, both of you. Hoorah. Police department, Jim.
Yeah, Mike's feeling a little under the weather, today. He said he was at the hospital, emergency room when he sent me a text earlier. You guys got the reports I put in front of you earlier. Everything's going smooth, everything's still running on all cylinders. And, Mike's hoping to be back next month after his last appointment earlier this month, so.
Did you, you guys get the note I left in the box about staying out of the driveway this side of Ellie's?
Yeah,
The resident complained they don't want you guys in there, so.
Where?
In the parking area across from the houses, this side of Ellie's,
yeah, we got it.
they just don't want parking there.
Yeah, okay, now I do, yeah.
A little dirt spot there, all
Yeah.
cars are.
It's not his car, anybody's car, not yet, right there.
You know, if you drove by, you'd see us sitting there and waiting, that spot.
That spot. Anything else going on with the police department?
Not that I'm aware of. Oh, yes, that was a lie. There is a grant writer that Mike's been working with.
Yeah.
Phone and email conversations he's been having with them, as far as I know, trying to figure out grants for communications and equipment for vests, belts, that kind of stuff, and for the radio and computer stuff for the car.
And do you know, did he say by chance where he's made out with that? Like, anything like that?
He didn't say what type of conversations he's been having, he just said he's been working with them, trying to figure out prices on,
Okay.
on grants.
Because grant writer will charge a fee for doing it for
Well, yeah,
So they like the grants we've been working on with the fire department for communications. You might as well throw in that round bucket in the corner. Seriously.
Well, let's hope
What's that?
not.
No.
Let's be optimistic.
what did he say?
I'm just telling you.
Communications,
Oh,
we're better on there.
We've
Yeah.
been
As far as
in
the
the state for
grants.
2 years for communications for the fire department.
yeah.
So,
Well, when the county,
grants in and
when the county switched to digital, this
every
village
fire
is a
department in the
pit.
county got denied.
This village is a pit for the airwaves. I don't get it. My portable, I could turn it on in here, you might hear zzz, that, that's it.
Yep.
So, I mean,
It's
that's,
us communication for emergency services.
exactly. I just tell
It really
dispatch,
is,
if
I'm
you can't,
sorry.
if you can't get me on the radio, just call my cell phone and tell me where I'm going. That's
That's all I
Yeah,
did.
all there is to it.
Yeah, it's.
Car radio works fine,
New
but if I'm not in
system,
the car, I just tell them to call my cell phone, cause I can't hear on this,
Gotcha.
so.
Well,
We gotta get some upgrades or something's gotta be done. It's a
No.
safety issue.
Just as peace of mind, you guys never think about. Killbuck's assistant chief researched radios, handhelds.
Mm-hmm.
He found one this big. With an antenna on it that long, he talks to everyone in the county on it. Bought it on eBay for $45. We're paying over $2,000 a handheld for the fire department.
you said, who from Killbuck?
The assistant chief down there.
Do you know his name?
No, I do not. I don't remember.
You do?
I can get it.
Yeah.
He brought it up at our last chief's meeting. He had it with him. It's like fits in the palm of your hand.
Take $45 on eBay?
He bought it on eBay for $45, took it up to Jamestown, had it programmed for the fire channels. He talks to Little Valley, truck to truck, OEM, anywhere down in that area up in the mountains and stuff, he can talk to them all.
Problem is, that's a high wave radio system. We have a digital system.
No, this is digital. And he
I
talked.
find that hard to believe.
So did every other chief that was at that meeting 3 weeks ago. He showed us, he had it right there.
Rose, can you put a note
It
for
really
mine to do
worked.
to see if I can get in contact with that guy to see what we can do?
It's not Jeff, is it?
Done.
Jeff Harrison?
Might be,
Or when,
but,
Oh, really?
yeah, so they can get over and see
Yeah.
what's going on.
You can? Alright, you can cross that off my list, Rose.
Yep,
Works
put it on
fine.
work,
Put it on my list.
it's on it.
Awesome. As far as I know, I believe you guys have been doing a good job as far as, still, as always, talking with businesses, talking with people, all of that. Does anybody have anybody on the board have any questions for the police department?
Jim, can you get me a copy of the report?
Sure.
Can you give
That's a copy.
copy? And
Just to put within
Share
the
it
meeting
always.
packet.
Yeah.
Thank you.
alright, next up is planning and zoning, still can't do that because we haven't had a meeting yet from that.
That's Wednesday night, is the next joint planning.
It is?
board. Yep, and the 24th 4th of this month is a zoning board of appeals meeting on a variance and special use permit. I just got the date today from Wayne. So that information will be going to the zoning board of appeals and an ad will go in the paper.
Alright, and will they get, do you know, will they get, the proposed zoning law amendment done?
They've been working their way through, they've got their mission statement complete, and, I believe they are going to start working on the signage portion of the town zoning law.
Okay.
I believe that's their next priority.
Okay. Mr. John, you're up, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
So what do you have to report for the DPW, water, sewer, streets?
We, you know, our water and sewer duties, we stitched on Leavenworth, we started blacktopping on the roads that are gonna get chip sealed. I will have the final figures tomorrow for the chip seal. We are gonna go to the 17th of this month, we're gonna save 10 cents a gallon on the oil. So I have the streets here that we will do. Final price will be tomorrow. I talked to her today, so I will bring you exact sheet.
Okay.
We do a Jefferson Street from 353 down to the bridge. Waverly Street from 353 to South, First Street, Second Street, Third Street, Memorial Drive from 253 to roughly Chuck Sen's house.
Okay.
To where?
Chuck Sen's.
Chuck Sen's, they're along
Okay.
roads there. South Franklin from Jefferson to Washington. West Hill from 353 to the top. And this is in Washington Street from, South Franklin, from Ellicott to South Franklin.
Okay.
Leavenworth is on the back corner right now into the sea with, you know, we've got work to do on that road and crossing through there. The only thing I suggest that we could get some money back from FEMA, that we take the roughly $5,400 to do West Hill and take it out of that money that we were given, we should say.
The $5,400?
It's, this job is, it says 53,3081, so I say 5,400. I will know the exact figures tomorrow. And
5,400 or 54,000?
5,400.
5,400.
You got any issues with that, Gene? I don't think so.
Now, for the FEMA money that we already received, then,
Yes, sir. It was,
And as for-
9,000.
coming up project or something you already did?
It will be for a project we'll be doing 17th.
So is it the board's intention then to reserve that 5,400 out of that money for the next year, for this fiscal year we're in now? If so, I need a motion.
Is that all you need, is just 5,400?
Yes, I will do it.
Okay, can I get a motion to take $5,400 from the reserve for, work for the DPW?
I make a motion.
I'll second.
Bo, made the first, or, made the motion, Ward second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous, carried and approved.
And that should leave the rest of the project around 22,600 for all the rest, because we will do a short section down Waverly Street too, and that's included.
Okay,
And the roller rental will be probably $1,500, I've called several other places. And, rubber tire rollers are, like a thing of the past, the county, they're not, nobody, D&H paving. He said he'd check around and get back to me, and I heard from the other day, he says, no dice, so we're stuck with what it is, the way it is, I guess.
okay.
As I said, we've started blacktopping the holes and getting stuff ready for them roads. We got a little bit more to do. Today we spent portion of the day with Jamie Herman. He come in to locate some water leaks that we seemed to thought we had. The one over by Impact Collins driveway, I believe it's a service going from the house across the street. And nearest I can figure by listing on it, it's between the main and the shut off, so that's our responsibility to fix
Okay.
and take care of. Then he listened, he went from the corner of Washington to the end of South Franklin. Cause there has been a concern about the water down there down on the bank, that's always been wet in there. And they seem to think it's getting wetter, so he listened the full length of that line and found nothing. We stopped and checked on it, we did check on one of the curb boxes and listened and found nothing leaking there.
Okay.
So, why there's more water down in there, that I don't know. There is a tile that does run across the road back in there,
A what?
a tile, a little clay tile does.
Oh.
I don't know, it's, some of the road water runs to it, and the water that's back in there runs through it. I don't know if it's covered with debris, if it's something at all, if the manhole was alright, if we just went back in there and just cleared the end of the tile, so any water does get there, it can go and leave it at that or whatever. That I don't know, that's, I guess, up to,
Right.
whatever you guys think about that. The sidewalks, we looked at.
What ones are we looking at doing?
It's roughly 870 feet. It would run from, if you went from the school driveway, if you pulled out of the school driveway, it'd be a right-hand side. We'd pick up from the 5-foot walks we laid last year and go to the end of the street.
Mm-hmm.
Then we would go from over onto Jefferson Street from that corner to where we stopped last year with the 5-foot walks. The cost of that is roughly $24,500. Plus there is 2, possibly 3 trees to be removed. I'm guessing it would cost probably close to $25 million on top of that.
Is that in the list of the trees that you gave us?
Yes, sir.
How many trees were on that? Oh, God.
20 almost?
17.
Was it one acre or was it one, yeah?
Huh?
Was it one acre or was it?
Rose sent that to us in an email, today.
What's that?
The list of trees
It
that,
was like 23 or 24 right there.
Only one acre.
22.
22. And how many trees will we be able to take care of through the budget, do you know?
That part I'm not exactly sure on.
Have you,
I talked to Mr. Fisher today, he was busy today, but he assures me the next day he has available minute, he will come over and he will, we'll take a ride around and look at, what he seems to think is the worst, and we'll get some more pricing and go from there.
okay,
I did have one resident on Jefferson Street that was really adamant, he would like the tree down because it is dropping a lot of limbs and stuff that he feels it's a hazard to his house and people walking by.
okay.
And I said I did have a list together and I would be taking it to the board, and he was satisfied with that, so.
So along with the, because typically how many trees do we do a year?
Usually between maybe 3, maybe 4, depending on size.
Okay. You said we already got 2 that need to be taken out just in the sidewalks alone. So then we'd have maybe just,
We can use CHIPS money for some of that. As a matter of fact, I think we can use CHIPS money for all of it if we want to. Then the $18,000 that's in the sidewalk can be put back into the streets or whatever.
for other improvements.
Other improvements, or we can take 9,000, put it back in the streets and take another 9,000 and do some more sidewalks some other place. I know, I was asked to look at the sidewalk in front of Keith's Gasman's, there's about 30 feet there that is, I take it there must have, there was a tree there at one time, I remember it. and the stump has been taken out, and I think that just the ground around it has let the sidewalks just in there, paved, twisted, it's a mess. There's 30 feet there could be replaced. But I do think the intention at one time was to try to get from the school and start making our way
Right.
out. But that would tie two nice sections together if we did that 870 feet.
Okay, so then you're saying then we should, how much more, would it be, you said to take from the CHIPS money?
We could take all of it out of CHIPS if we wanted to. Then you've got your 18,000 you allotted for white walks this year, you could take 9,000, put it back into the budget, or you can take the 18,000, or you can take 9,000 and 4 more sidewalk, that's.
Okay,
However, I mean, I'm not forcing this down your throat, if you think there's other places, or the board thinks there's other places that should be done, for this is done, I'm more than willing to, go with what everybody thinks, I mean, this is what I see, and,
so,
Can I ask, you won't be using any of the FEMA money for the chipping or anything like that?
just, the only thing I want from the FEMA money is to pay, because we got reimbursed for almost all
But
of us.
I'm talking to chips,
Just for chip sealing alone, just that $5,400 out of that money was out of the first roof over.
but not the 30,000 of the chip?
No, sir, that'll come out of the general, like it normally does.
what do you think?
He knows the sidewalks better than we do.
That's my thought.
Well, it's like everything else, I mean, we can pour new sidewalks forever and ever, and never get caught up, but I guess it's nice to take off from where we started and finish, it's nice
Right.
to see a finished product. Yeah, that will give us a 5-foot sidewalk from the corner of, Jefferson and North Franklin all the way to Hoyt, and I can't remember exactly how down past the school it's 5 foot. And I think there's a section there, it's not exactly great, then somewhere along there's a 4-foot section that goes down to, I wanna say almost to Vandenberg, maybe in the Parisi's.
Okay,
So, I mean, that street's slowly getting there.
so if you got an additional $18,000, would you be able to get it done?
No,
No.
no, there's,
Wishful thinking.
it's like everything else, there's more trees to be moved, and sometimes getting trees moved is opposition to.
So do you wanna would you rather see the money be allocated towards the sidewalks, towards more for streets, or more towards for trees? Where do you see the need is?
Honestly, if you wanna do all that over there, then take the money and do that in front of Gaston's and get that fixed, then take the rest of the money and put it towards trees, that would be good.
Okay, so then you need a motion then for what, 18,000? Does he need a motion, Gene?
Nothing at this time, just,
We've got to get prices and get things.
but one question I have, if I understand what
Let's
you're
go that
saying,
direction.
because Dan Goss lives down West Franklin,
Yes,
and he said that's all tore up by the gas line. Is that gonna affect your sidewalks?
No.
Because he said that everything down through there, his yard and everything is tore up by the gas company.
no, that shouldn't affect nothing. When they get done, it should be restored to, well, I don't.
Just like that.
I am not, and I do believe that probably the people that live on Leavenworth are gonna be calling National Fuel shortly if they already haven't. The restoration work was not what you'd wanna call.
Adequate.
Yes.
Was it terrible?
If you take the cheapest bid, you get the cheapest one. That's all I'll say.
And
Been there, done that.
I've heard too that, when they hired these guys, the first job they come in, they figured they were gonna get when Galati does the work, he writes the damage report. He writes the damage report for X amount of feet. Well, the particular job they were on, you know, the damage report was for 4 feet. Well, they thought, okay, well, we're not making big money here, so we're gonna claim that we're, you know, we had to do 8 feet, we're gonna do this and do that. And they went ahead and did it, they went back to Dixon, from National Fuel, National says no. If there's any extras to be provided, you will call us and we will come out and authorize it for you to go ahead and do it. And I think that kind of made some harsh feelings and everything from there on in. It's just been, I mean,
Would you, also in regards to the trees, would you be able to take some evening and be able to show members of the board like where they're at, what you feel is the worst looking ones and what really
Anytime.
need the attention?
anytime,
Okay.
I do not have a problem with that.
If you do that, no more than 2 board members at a
Right.
time, or publicly announce it.
Right.
Well, we keep going, we're only gonna have 1 or 2 left anyway,
This rate of attrition.
Trees or board members?
Whole
Trees. That Lord huge.
Do you have anything else to report, Jen?
Yes. If you all take a look at this is for water. Our,
Oh, I gotta talk about that.
it's a big word I wanna use here, telepathy. That runs,
Telepathy?
yes, that goes from the reservoir, tells our wells when to come on and when to shut off. Our old system is, if the information serves me right, was struck by lightning again, which happens some reason all too rapidly. Well, and the problem is it's outdated, and they said they thought they had some parts on the shelf that they could borrow and fix this thing with. So are we spending money on, you know, three-legged pony to do the job with a pair of drive courses? So I went ahead and I talked to Cyclops, and this is what he gave me to propose to run it. It will be, it's not quite the same system that we have at the spring lots, but it's based on the same thing. It'll give us reports. We can turn our well on and off with our phones, and we will program it for a range. The thing of it is, the 2 systems can't communicate. They can't talk to each other. So basically what he would say, would put in there is it's a program that we can change to see, we can either run like 12 hours, and if that doesn't fill us, we can run another 12 hours, or maybe we can run 16 hours until we get, you know, because the comes in on the phone, the alarm goes off, I believe at 15.5, I think is low. That tells the well to come on, the well runs, fills it, gets to 18.1, shuts it off. With this, we have to figure out about how many hours we have to run, but in X amount of hours it will shut off, so it isn't one of them things, I turn the well on, I forgot to turn it off.
Right.
Okay, and it will have, and it can be set up with a free chlorine analyzer, similar to the one that we use at the reservoir,
Okay.
and the prices are here. On the first page, if I pass that along, look at it. The only question I have about that is, the well, the last time the well was run, it was flushed, and the well hasn't been run, to my knowledge, almost in a year's time. Our springs have done pretty much everything straight through. There's been times the reservoirs dropped a little bit, but we've recovered in a timely manner. With this chlorine system, the one at the reservoir, water constantly runs through it, and it constantly is checking and sending status reports, I think every 2 minutes, if I remember correctly. To have this sit there and not run, then we need it to run. Is the accuracy there? Is it gonna work right, or is that one of the things we put it in and it don't work right because it don't send a message, or everything's all screwed up and we gotta drag down and work on it anyways? It'd be just simply just to go down and turn it on. And,
Right.
and the question is, I don't, we know our residual as we're pumping water. The thing of it is, if we leave it on and let it run and send reports all the time. The water coming from that pipe to our main, I don't wanna say would be stagnant, but it's not rolling, it's not fresh, so it's gonna get the same reading. And as time goes on,